This is your first week with Shroud, yeah?
Well, with the proper modifiers, yeah. It's essentially learning Shroud's moveset and trying to avoid the Garys as well, but that's about it.
Thoughts on mods for this week?
It's Titan's Crash for the stagger damage.
Yeah, I think it's the same for every weapon. I think every weapon is just going to be rocking its usual build layout, right?
Yeah.
Mods are just going to be what you would bring for every single trial. Drop timing for this week. I think our drop timings, after watching you run, I think you dropped a little bit later than I did. I pretty much run right up to the vents, take a quick breather, and then pop potions and then drop in. I think you took a couple seconds later than me.
I run up to the vent, I quickly cancel like 3-4 seconds, and then I pop.
Yeah, so I think
that typically works.
A couple seconds behind me. Something I noticed was when I did my timings, it roll into him and he kind of would do a 360 a little bit, and allowed me to get in 3 full combos before he would attack.
So he kind of has like the same skeletons like Scrave and Strike and all of them. So if you stand in between their legs, they kind of seem to get lost.
Yes, exactly.
So it bugs out.
For builds, I think our build had 1 cell difference, if I can remember correctly. Let me look up.
It was Wild Frenzy.
Yeah, I ran Wild Frenzy and you ran +6 Berserker instead.
Yeah. So I mean, for people who prefer the attack speed, Wild Frenzy is the way to go.
Yeah. I definitely really liked having the attack speed. I felt like the attack timings were much more forgiving for me with the Wild Frenzy versus the Berserker.
I would say one thing though is don't use Rage Hunter and Aether Hunter.
Yes. Yeah. Rage Hunter is just not worth it because you should be booping him out of Rage every single time. And then Aether Hunter doesn't proc until like 2 minutes in. So both are useless cells. I did notice that you were running Embermane's Lantern over Pangar. So I ran Pangar for some time and I was actually doing pretty well. And then he had a Frost proc and I couldn't interrupt him because of it. And that's when I stopped using Pangar.
Trying to get that second boop is much more slower and you're wasting so much more time.
I think the Frost proc was actually detrimental to keeping your damage up.
Another thing why the Embermane is pretty good with the Aether Drive is because it allows for the part break more consistently.
And then for potions, no surprise, it's the same 3. The Aether Drive, Frenzy, Blitz. I don't think there's any reason to run Stagger Pot this week, right?
I mean, considering that you can get the Stagger without the Stagger Pot, having the Aether Drive for the pot break.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to run Stagger Pot this week.
I totally agree right there.
All right. Weapons this week. What do you think?
Obviously, Strike is to get the top time. Chainblade's pretty safe if you do know how to manipulate Shroud.
Yeah, I would agree.
Maybe Hammer if you know how to use it for sure.
I think Hammer could do pretty well again. If you're playing Hammer, you definitely have to know how to boop him with Evasive Blast. I think there's no way around it. I think Pike could be good too. I think you could easily wound all of his pieces and get some good damage going.
I'm not totally sure if it can sub 3. I'll have to see if Captain Maelstrom does it.
Yeah. I don't think Repeaters and I don't think Axe can actually get sub 3 this week.
No, I think the Axe is around that like 330 mark.
Yeah, I think 330 would be probably the fastest Axe time.
The Repeaters, I'm not totally sure.
Parts to focus. I think the parts that you should be focusing is obviously one of the wings and the head once again.
So typically this is no-brainer again. It's definitely go for the head for that stagger damage. And eventually you can also get the part break on it.
Do you think you have to do any priming on the wing to get a good part break on it? Or do you just go straight head and then straight wing?
I hit both the head and the wing on the first boop. The head for that stagger damage, or you can just get a stagger off on the first boop and priming that wing for the break on the second. Yeah,
I saw you standing like right in the neck area on the first poop and just like clapping both the wing and the head. I think that's a very good strategy to stand right in that neck area so they can cleave both of the pieces with your claps.
Typically in these speedruns, AoEs tend to be quite important because that's extra damage.
Right.
into the payment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, positioning is king. Any like important timings that you're looking to hit when you're going through your run?
Definitely try to get the first boot roughly around that 35-second mark, maybe even 40 seconds. You want to make sure he runs away roughly around 55 seconds to 1 minute so you can repot.
I think that's all correct. Definitely getting him to enrage early and getting that boop within that 30 to 35 seconds, I think is very important, because you want that entire time on your first boop to be within your potions, and then you want him to run away right as your potions are running out. So that's what you're really looking for. Doing the re-potions on his second enrage while he's untargetable, I think is huge. I also noticed on your run, and it's a strategy I actually picked up, is rebuffing before he actually enrages. So rather than trying to get off a second clap before his first enrage, go for the rebuffs on your Karma Breaker and your Tempest form.
Rebuffing is mainly due to the fact that when you boop him, your mantras run out. Having to rebuff while you have overpower up is not necessarily good.
Exactly. Yeah, the Pankar week is exactly the same strategy. You wanted to rebuff even before your buffs were even close to done, just because when he's on the ground, you want to do nothing but claps. You don't want to be spending your mantras to rebuff.
Exactly. I mean, trying to get that head break and the wing break on the second boop, what happens is you prolong his downtime. If he just enrages again, that means he's just losing more time.
Yeah, so on the first boop, you should be staggering him near the end of the boop, and on the second boop, you should be breaking a piece at the end of the boop. The next topic is mistakes.
So in that 128 run, if I haven't missed the heavy, I could have gone a stagger with the clap.
You're talking about your second stagger? Or the second possible stagger?
The second stagger. Yeah, I missed the heavy.
Strategy inside the arena. Past the first part, which is just brawly, just beat up Shrowd, make sure that your buffs are good and refreshed right before he enrages. The next part would be baiting Shroud's boop. So do you want to explain that one?
Once he enrages, having the Karma Breaker up definitely helps you in finding him, because you just gotta look for the numbers, and typically you just want to stand like straight in front of Shrowd, not too close but not too far, and that kind of forces him to go to his boop.
Having his like beak just barely touching through the darkness that you can see, I found that that was the perfect amount of distance from him for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Having that him just right on the edge of the darkness bubble, it's a tell to show you that you're in a good position.
All right, so what do you think the top times for this week is going to be for both solo and group?
For solos, I would say 2 minutes 10, 20 for solos.
For solo, 2:10. Okay. I'd actually be very surprised if the top times for solos was 2:10. That seems quite low for me.
Actually, maybe even 2:30.
Yeah, 2:30. I would say 2:30 to 3 minutes would be the cutoff for solos. I'd say for groups, 2 minutes would be probably very likely for the cutoff.
Considering there's a lot of people who do trial carries.
Right, exactly.
It's likely.
And what are you thinking for the top 5 times for groups?
1:10, 1:20. To be honest, hear me out here.
Mm-hmm.
I think a top time will be taken by duo.
Really?
Yes.
All right, let me hear the reasoning behind that. That's very interesting.
It's mainly about controlling the fight, because if you have the 2 people, it's still very easy to bait the boop, and one person can run pylon, so that's the 25% damage right there. Once we get our run optimized, I reckon it can go down to the 110s.
I think 110 for top 5 times is pretty likely. I'd be very surprised to see a duo take it again. Wouldn't be super surprised to see a sub 1 minute for top group times, honestly.
So, I mean, the only way that's possible is if you get that 4-man, get him to enrage quickly. He does the boop first, and I think from there you just kind of stagger lock him.
I think that's very doable. I think it really depends on how much effort and time groups are going to put into it.
Exactly, how much it's mainly time though. How much time you're gonna put into him trying to get him to boot first.
Man, this week just really feels like a lot of RNG for his attack pattern. One of the things I wanted to bring up earlier was one of the things that can just ruin a run is if he ever does that attack where he sends out a clone in front of him to fly, it just ruins so much of your time.
Oh, it definitely does. And also Typically, once he does that, there's like so much distance that he'll do another move to where he jumps
Yep.
straight above you. Yeah, and that just kills a lot of time. As for solo top 5, I think a minute 30-ish. Top time being like 120.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that. It's got to be It's got to be sub 130. You think 120 for a top 1?
Oh yeah, I reckon that's definitely possible.
I think it's possible. I don't think anyone's going to get it though. I'm gonna say 125 for
Uh,
top time.
But yeah, going back to the groups, I still think the duo and Shanks and I will definitely try because I think a duo might be able to take it.
I would love to see it, man. I'd love to see it. I think a 4 team is going to take it, and I think it's going to be a sub 1 for the number 1 spot. You think it's going to be a duo?
Yes.
All right. I guess we'll find out. I'm looking forward to finding out the answer to that. Anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I mean, for people trying to get their top 5 times, definitely keep going at it. Keep practicing, learn his moves, learn how to force the boot, and you'll definitely get that.
I would also say there's going to be 1 week that you're going to outperform on. There's going to be one behemoth that it clicks in your brain for. There's going to be that one behemoth that you really play well on, and I would say go all in on that week.